Well, hi. Tonight I'd like to read you the foreword of my new book that I'm working on, which is about the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. History, literature, and drama. The book is going to be about 300 pages. I've got about 90 pages completed. So I'd like tonight to be able to read the foreword to you and to give you an idea of what the book is going to be about. The Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. Foreword. You know, I've been thinking about the Queen of Sheba for an awfully long time and began to write this book in spring 2009. I remembered the New Testament reference to the Queen of Sheba and thought how important she must have been in the history of Arab and Semitic cultures that Jesus Christ would mention her at all, as she had already been dead 1,000 years. Corroborated by two Gospels, Jesus said, "The Queen of the South shall rise up in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon is here." That's Matthew 12:42, and that's corroborated in Luke 11, verse 31. Part 1 of my book begins with a scriptural study of all Sheba references, particularly the origins and genealogy of the name, its former territories and connections with Hebrew patriarchs such as Abraham, and King Saul and David. I proceeded then to research existing trade partnerships and routes between ancient Israel and the ancient Sabaeans, 12th to 10th century BC until 4th century AD, whose 1,500-year kingdom was later surpassed in power by a tribe known as Himyarites. And as a couple of footnotes, Sheba is the ancient Egyptian word for star, and also means the number 7 from the Hebrew Shabua and Shaba. The Hebrew Shabbat is coined from these words: Shabua, number 7, and Shaba, to swear an oath. And that comes from Ellis on page 51. And the Himyarite kingdom, I want to mention, was located in southwestern Arabia from the 2nd century BC to 520 AD. They were a Semitic tribe that spoke their own language and were farmers and fishermen whose wealth came from exporting frankincense and myrrh. And apparently, according to Jelen, 2009, the language is still spoken today in a small area of southern Yemen. In part 2, the book then travels into ancient Arabia, Yemeni, Ethiopian, and Eritrean tales of the Queen of Sheba, by some called Balkis, Bilkis, or Bilkus, and by others called Makeda and Etai Azeb. Past Arabian tales, as well as tales from the Quran, enliven the sagma of this enigmatic queen. In some tales, she kills her 4 half-brothers to become king-queen. She kills a king who wanted to have sex with her. She visits Solomon, and some say she married him and had their son Menelik. This prince later visited his father Solomon, who reportedly gave the Ark of Covenant to his son, who reportedly brought the relic to his home in Ethiopia. And some other tales say that Sheba married the king of Yemen from Hamdani tribe. The ancient historian Josephus calls her the Queen of Egypt and Ethiopia, and some scholars have concluded she was the pharaoh Hatshepsut, who worshipped the sun gods, and that Solomon was Amenhotep III. According to Gerald Massey, a famous British poet, author, lecturer, and Egyptologist who lived between 1828 and 1907, quote, "In Britain for some centuries, French was the dominant language, and many towns in England still have their names in French. With such a large chunk of Egypt's population speaking a Semitic language, besides that of the country they have resided in, it was inevitable that the king's name would have an alternative, just as King Guillaume the First of England was William to the Saxons. With Egyptian names, another factor enters the equation. They usually wrote the god name down first, although it was pronounced in reverse. Thus, Tutanka written is Tutankhamun spoken. We know that for many centuries, the main name of God revered in Egypt was Amen, and it is this name that has carried down through the ages at the end of every prayer. Think about that. So this at least was unlikely to change when carried over into another language. The other main element in Amenhotep's royal title was peace. In Egypt, it is Hadip, usually given in English as Hotep or Hetep. To the Semite population, whether of Egypt or the lands they ruled to their northeast, it was Salim. This hasn't changed much over the millennium, for now to the Hebrews it is Shalom, and to the Arabs it is Salam. Substitute one for the other and reverse the words for ease of pronunciation, and Amenhotep becomes Salimamen. In the Greek Bible, it is written as Saloman. Finding the right Amenhotep is also no problem at all, for everything we know about the pharaoh Amenhotep III matches exactly everything the Bible tells us about King Solomon, and that's from Massey's Book of the Beginnings, page 106. The biblical King Solomon was known for his wisdom, his wealth, and his writings. He became ruler in approximately 967 BC, and his kingdom extended from the Euphrates River in the north to Egypt in the south. That's from Schoenberg. Other tales say the Queen of Sheba never married or had children, but ruled alone as a virgin queen. Sheba is often portrayed in these tales as a product of a jinn and human parentage, and so might have been a descendant of the Nephilim or Anunnaki, who was brilliant, ruthless, violent, brave, and powerful. All sources, with the exception of the Bible, say she had hairy legs. Part 3 of this book is a play based upon these ancient tales. I want to create a fabulous female role and not omit any of Sheba's scandals. From all accounts, she was the ultimate Machiavellian. After reading the tales, I think I will accept the ancient historian Josephus' account that she was the queen of Egypt and Ethiopia. So I will imagine her as Pharaoh Hatshepsut, who led a life of deprivation and secrecy until she became a king. Investigating the Queen of Sheba has been an iconic search for the divine gnosis within all of us.